Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. Now, let us both be honest here with each other, okay? When it comes to closing down the yard, the last thing we think about is cleaning up the tools. Well, can we get this cleaned up over the snow? I actually had to finish cleaning up my yard after the first heavy snow, because that's when it thawed. I got caught. So my tools don't get cleaned. Well, what do you do? Well, in this case, I put them away. Okay, yes, it means I'm going to have tools that are a little dirtier, a little harder to clean, etc. But I know I'm going to be able to get to them after I get through Christmas. Yes, it takes forever to get through Christmas. So cleaning up your tools is extremely critical. One, you know that you want them to be cleaned up. They need to be disease-free. They need to make sure that the dirt is not still attached to them. The dirt, okay, will actually spread insects, eggs, etc., as well as disease. So you want to clean that all up, make sure they're clean and sharp, and of course, disease and insect-free. Now, let's start with a few things that you need to do. Let's start with the lawnmower. Lawnmower is one of the biggest culprits because nobody cleans it out, not realizing that all the lawn diseases like red thread, mildew, etc. are actually spread by the lawnmower and the lawnmower blades. So you wheel out your lawnmower from last year to this year, and you went over and you cut your granny's lawn, and she had red thread last fall, and you got it now, right? So, soap, water, clean. Remove as much of the buildup of the grass clippings, the chlorophyll, etc. You'll see the phosphates coming out when you pull it out there, and you'll see which is all the insoluble minerals and fertilizer, etc. That's all built up in there. You'll see the dirt that for some reason or other, the dust and everything else is combined with moisture because you cut the lawn when the leaves were a little too wet in the fall. And of course, you've got all this solid mass. So I use an old kitchen knife, a dull one, and I go in and I scrape off as much as possible that you can, okay? Then you go and you use a hose, wash it all down if you can, and soap and water. Now, this means a nice day outside too, so let's be honest, you're going to pick your day to do that out there. I like to wear gloves that are waterproof, okay? That helps to keep my hands a little drier, a little warmer when you're out there at this time of year. The thing about this is you're going to then lubricate the wheels. You're going to sharpen the blade or take the blade off and actually sharpen the blade equally so that it is balanced. In taking the blade off, it'll allow you to actually clean some up of that debris that's on the rest of the lawnmower as well. And that's very, very important. Once it's back on tight and you're sharp, etc., you do want to start your lawnmower, make sure there's no vibrations, etc. It is now time to go, and if you're using gas, you want to take the spark plug. You want to gap it properly. You want to drain maybe the gas out of it after a while, or you want to, if it's a mixture, you're going to put a little stabilizer in there, or you're going to run it so it's pretty well dry. So what you don't want is a lot of old gas in your lawnmower sitting there all winter. It helps if you do go and run it so that you know that the balance on the blade is good. And, of course, once that's done and you're lubricated and the wheels are rolling, etc., also check the height adjustments, because the height adjustments very often get sticky and all covered in all kinds of debris. And whether it's a single pull to adjust all four wheels at one time, or if they're all individuals, they always will pick up debris. So clean the top, make sure that the air filters, if you've got them, are clean, and that's all you can do for now. You want to put it away and put it away clean. Now, if you've got hand pruners or secateurs, let's be honest, everyone will. You're going to have to go and clean them. Again, soap and water is your first and best friend. It's going to help with insects, eggs, disease, dirt, etc. Once that's done, you can either take them apart and lubricate them and sharpen them. When I go to sharpen them, please remember this. It is critical. 20-degree angle with a diamond file on the cutting blade. When you look at the blade, you will see a bright edge. The width of that bright edge should not get wider or narrower. If it gets narrower, what happens is that it will cause greater resistance going through the wood, causing you to do more work and to actually have more stress on your hand, wrist, and arm as you prune. If you take and you thin the blade by changing the 20-degree angle and making it wider, that bright edge, what happens is the blade becomes thinner. And as you're working and cutting the most common everyday plant, you can actually chip the blade. If that's the case, throw the blade away, because you're probably never going to be able to grind out that large chip and still maintain a good slicing curve on the blade and a 20-degree angle on the bright edge. Okay? And then I also want you to go and lubricate. Now, when I say lubricate, you can use a number of things. For long-term storage, I like to use canola oil. You can use vegetable oil. But there is also a product out there by Baco that is known as EcoLube. It's very, very good. But if you're an organic gardener, try the canola oil. It's the most stable, and it usually helps when you come out in the spring and you're going to prune up and you're in the things you eat. It's basically an edible. Okay? So you've got it sharpened, you've got it cleaned, and you put it together. Now, you test it. Okay? Because you want it not too tight, not too loose. Okay? But when you've got it just right, you open and close it. And if you have been a bad person and you have been taxing the blade throughout the season by cutting larger branches than the capacity of the pruners instead of getting out the loppers or the handsaw, okay, you'll have warped the blade. And as tight as you can get them, when you open and close them, if you can still see light between the counter blade, that's that big thick one that holds the branch, and the slicing blade, if that's the case, you've ruined your pruners or secateurs. You can either replace the head or replace the entire pruners, because you will never get a good cut ever again. The next thing you want to do is you want to take a look at your loppers. And the reason we do them together is that it's the same procedures for the hand pruner secateurs as it is for a lopper. You know that bright edge? That bright edge is still 20 degrees on your loppers, and you follow the entire rules for the secateurs and the hand pruners as you do for the loppers. They're just bigger. So do that. And again, here is where we usually see the biggest culprit of overtaxing a tool. Very often people try and cut a bigger branch than the lopper has a capacity for. When you bought your lopper, it tells you how big a branch you can cut, but you'll always do a little bigger. Oh, it's okay, instead of getting out the handsaw. So what you do is you push and you push. And as you're pushing together, you don't keep both hands equal. You twist. Oh, and it works much better. And as you twist, you warp the head. And no matter how much tightening and cleaning and sharpening, when you can still see light between them, the counter blade and the blade, again, throw them away. They are useless. Okay? Remember, when sharpening the lopper, It's that 20-degree angle on the bright edge, neither narrower nor longer. Very often I have seen this in loppers more than I have seen in the hand saws, or I should say the hand pruners or secateurs. Please make sure that when you do pick the tool, that you pick the tool that works best for you. If you don't have the strength, the size, the power, then you shouldn't be pruning with something that is too big or too small. Okay? Not good for either tool. So pick the tool that fits you and the job. If you have some knives, and I think every good horticulturalist does, same rules. Soap, water. You want to sometimes you'll see the sap build up on a lot of these tools. There is a product by Bahco called Sapex, will help you to remove it. I also find that the dishwashing sponges with the rough sort of coat on the one side will help as well. Again, this one, your knife could be a double-sided knife or a single-sided knife. If it's a single-sided knife, then you only sharpen the bright edge at about 20 degrees on the one side. Once it's nice and sharp, you will turn the blade over and take one swipe of your sharpening stone, okay, whether it's a diamond or a carborundum stone, okay, just to take off any burr that developed once. One time with each time when you sharpen it. That's all. Again, it is something that can be lubricated if necessary. In this case, because I don't like canola oil and my knife is in my pocket, I use a little Eco Lube, okay, from Bahco, and then I wipe it all down, okay? So there's very minimal there. Otherwise, you get this stain in all your gardening pants, okay? With the knives, you do have some serrated knives as well. It's very important that you use a triangular shaped knife when you do have a serrated blade, or a round diamond file, which is absolutely the best. Harder to find, but it allows you as a circle to go around curves, particularly the sharper curves that a flat or square or even a triangle or sharpening stone will not allow. So that is something you can go looking for. Put it on your wish list, put it on your Christmas list, and if you haven't been a naughty boy, then basically you might just get it for Christmas in your stocking. They are not inexpensive, I should warn you now, but a good tool usually isn't. Now, once you've done all of that, there is the double-sided, and you, in this case, you do the same sharpening that you do on a single knife, but you do it on the opposite side as well, so that you've got a nice clean sharp on both sides of the blade. There's not a lot of them out there, but a lot of the best high-end blades for knives are actually double, okay? The ones that you pay the most money for are usually the double-sided cutting blades. Loppers we covered because they are very similar to the pruners and secateurs, but we should talk about head shears, grass shears, and topiary shears. Now, they're all subtle differences, but head shears and topiary shears are very, very close. Again, you've got the bright edge, except that it's usually straight until you get into the wavy edged ones. And you get a wavy edge head shear, the wave is there to do woodier stems. So if you're doing boxwood hedge and you're only doing the soft trim on the outside or on the U, you don't need a wavy edge head shear. You need just a straight blade. If you're doing and going into wood more often, then you're looking and you put on your wish list a wavy edge head shear. If you're doing topiary, then you know that you're doing only very fine work And usually on evergreens, etc., there's a lot of sap buildup because you're working in the green material. So make sure you do use all the soap and water on them. You do use the little dish sponge with the rough side, and you do use, in this case, the Sapex as well. It works, and it works very well if you do all of those. And this is where I find the most buildup is on these ones. Same thing happens with grass shears. Remember all that buildup underneath your lawnmower? Well, here it is. It's now on your grass shears. So, same cleanup, scrape it off, use the Sapex, use the little pad for the dishwashing, and you should be good to go. And then, again, if it's long-term storage, then canola oil. If short-term, then the Eco Lube from Bahco. So those are some of the things that you can do. Saws are far more complicated, and each one of them has to be done properly. I suggest, unless you're a very patient person, that you have them done professionally, or you just replace the blade. And very often, professionals do both. In the wintertime, they'll do the sharpening, but they'll often have blades set and ready to go because they cannot ever be down. Hand saws are difficult because there are multiple faces on every tooth, and every tooth actually points in a slightly different direction. And they're self-cleaning, most of them. Some of them cut on the pull stroke, some on the push stroke, and some on both strokes. This is why it's better to go and have them professionally sharpened and cleaned. With shovels, spades, forks, and hose, it's a good straight soap, water, a little dishwashing pad from the sink. Get it all off. Here's where I usually use the canola oil. Wipe them all down. It's going to get pushed off anyways, but I make sure that the tool does not get rusty. Even some stainless steels can build up surface rust, which usually comes off long before you have to do anything about it. Usually just simple use or good cleaning up. So do that and make sure. If they have wooden handles, and the wooden handles are usually always lacquered. Now, after a while use, you can clean them up. You can re-lacquer them if you wish. A lot of people will restain them, they'll lacquer them, they'll spend a lot of time with them, but just keep them clean and smooth because you don't want any splinters at all. So with those, you know that you're going to be doing some storage. It's going to be considered at this time of year long-term storage. So your really good cleanup, really good lubricant, usually with the canola oil, and or olive oil, mineral oil, or the Bahco Eco Lube. All of them can be necessary on different tools for different uses. Hang them up, clean them. I like to peg my tools on my pegboard. That way I know when something is missing. We always seem to forget gloves. And remember gloves, wash them. Put them in the washing machine with your gardening clothes. That's fine. Do them as a separate load if they're machine washable. And then some are machine dryable, some you must hang, some are leather and will need to actually be worked in with maybe a different waterproof material, something that you can either use on boots or on leather like that, and that will make them pliable, and it is a good time of year to do that as well. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.